welcome back to the Chappie and Bengals podcast. I am your host, Bengals. My co-host over here, Chappie, presented by Play Action Sports. I'm really glad I'm jumping on this pod with you right now, Chappie, because this Saints-Packers game is absolute dog water. And
Just
I do not want to watch
those.
another second of this awful football game. But thankfully, we had a good slate of games this past weekend. Got the Saturday games too. I know we love the Saturday games, getting close to the holidays, kick the feet up, watch a couple of those games on the Saturday. But first and foremost, how are you doing today, Chappie? I know it's a busy time of year. We got, Christmas and everything going on.
Oh, yeah.
How's everything on your end?
Love the Christmas holidays. Great. Fantastic. Love it when you get them. It's awesome.
Yeah, when you get them. You got to get them, though.
You got to get them. You got to get those holidays in order for that to happen. Yeah. Fantastic. Things are great. Shopping not quite done. So we're running a little tight here against the fucking clock here. But we're going to make that happen when we have time. That's the best part about getting those holidays is, having that opportunity to go and get those things done. So
see, we just, you're like me. We work better with a tighter deadline here.
We do.
Thrive in the backs chaos. Against the wall.
Thrive in the chaos.
Just throw them. I'll get it done. Don't worry. It might be last minute, but we're gonna get it done. That's just how we roll. Yep. So we got Christmas Eve tomorrow. It's December 23rd, by the way, Monday, and then we got some holiday games coming up. It's gonna be a big week. A lot of clinching scenarios and stuff. So we're gonna be excited to watch that. But let's kind of get into this NFL weekend, this past weekend, week 16, a lot of stuff has kind of gone on. Some teams are out, some teams are in. We can touch quickly on that Broncos-Chargers game earlier in the week. Kind of had a lot of implications to do with some of the AFC seeding here. Gave my Bengals a little bit of life. And it's interesting to see kind of how this is going to play out because Broncos got two tough games. That Chargers win was big, solidified their spot pretty much. Now the Broncos got to go into Cincy this week. It's exciting to see some meaningful football, so I'm excited for that. But some of the headlines that kind of came out, recent news, Diontae Johnson claimed by the Houston Texans. Pretty interesting to see that kind of come up. I want to get your thoughts there quickly. Now we know why we saw Tank Dell go down with that horrific injury. He had the dislocated kneecap, the torn ACL. Tough to see from the Texans' perspective. They already lost Diggs, but brutal. What do you think of Diontae Johnson getting claimed by the Texans here? Obviously, they need another receiver now, but
they need him. I think that's the
do we want Diontae in that locker room right now? Is that the right move? What do you think?
Yeah, probably not. But again, he's going to come in. He's going to fill that void. It's going to be that added value that you need, that talent. He is talented, man. Like, obviously, there's a bit of stuff going on there. But he can definitely fill that need. And this team, if they have any hopes and dreams here, are going to need that receiving core to be able to be active and well. And just this situation with Tank Dell, it's unfortunate. Honestly, kudos to that fucking guy for doing what he did and catching that ball and retaining it. Scoring a touchdown on that. That's fucking wild to me. Because that fucking, that would have hurt so bad, man. Fuck. So, yeah, it was the fact that he did that alone. But back to the Diontae Johnson situation, they need that. And, they've been stretched incredibly hard here with all the receiving injuries with their team. So this is a need. You take what you can get in some points. That's why I was kind of joking about the Devondre Campbell situation. At some point, you get a need that
teams get desperate enough,
right? And that's where it's kind of keep an eye on that situation because this is similar to that effect. And then it comes down to the stretch where you're going to need that guy. So
absolutely.
You go out and get that guy. So
Tank Dell was it seemed like that was his best game of the season so far, which was huge. That's what Houston needed. Yeah. They got Nico. Yep. Nico plays great. Mixon's been a little up and down as of late, but when you get Tank Dell going, that's what they needed. And then for that to happen, heartbreaker. But on the Diontae side of things, what a time for this to happen because who does Houston play this week? the Baltimore Ravens. Quite a convenient time to be claimed by Houston. Diontae is going to go from Baltimore to the Houston Texans. Be interesting to see if he actually plays this week. I think that'd be awesome. But it's like you said, massive need. They're in their window. They're obviously trying to pursue a championship here, and you get a guy like Diontae Johnson. He was productive on Carolina to start the year, and he's going to be able to fill that void for sure as wide receiver 2 on that team. So big need here. Interested to see how that translates because he clearly was not a locker room guy on the Ravens. They didn't like him, didn't last very long. And we know that is the type of player Diontae is, but beggars can't be choosers at this point for the Houston Texans. Now we can kind of use that to segue into this Saturday game. The Houston Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs. Not the result I was looking for. Not the result anybody was looking for if you're not a Kansas City fan, I would assume. But I want to get into some of the headlines of this game aside from the injury there. But what do you think? What was your first takeaways from this game, Chiefs-Texans on the Saturday?
Listen, any high ankle sprain fucking bullshit that I ever hear coming from the Kansas City Chiefs camp and any like stuff I see from Mahomes in practice, stretching things out and getting ready for the game. Listen, it's a circus at this point. You expect to see a clown show and you're getting one, but this team is just, and honestly, there's two parts of this. One, I think it's, a constant fucking bullshit train that they feed. Oh, he's hurt, and then he goes and does what he does. The second part is he's also a bit of a gamer, and I do feel like a lot of the things don't go Mahomes' way when it comes to this narrative because of the situation.
Right.
So it's a half and half with me where I'm like, you know what? Honestly, he does come across hurt all the fucking time and still puts up shit, but no one's going to give this guy credit. No one's ever going to feed him wow, this guy actually plays through a lot of bullshit. And that's like the Brady tale. It's the same shit where this guy just game dead decision every fucking game, and it's like, no, fuck the Patriots and fuck this guy and fuck all these people. Like, and I kind of just chuckle at this because Mahomes actually he does fight through a lot of shit and keeps coming in game. Like, he shouldn't have even played that game. What was the point? And it's one of those, like, I get it, to like kind of solidify your spot in the standings.
Looked fine to me
with what was happening, but then like is this guy really? I don't know. Like, at
that's
this
why
point,
I'm like,
do you sit them these two, like one of these, like, you're not sitting them on fucking Christmas, so
you can't. They need to clinch.
You can't. They need to clinch. So it's like, so now you're gonna hope that they clinch, obviously, and they should. But then, fucking at the end of this, well, you're gonna run that after the case, and you better sit this guy if he's hobbling. He's hobbling into the playoffs. Yeah.
If they win this week, then he won't be playing the next week.
Genuinely hurt. We're just like, nah,
dude. I just so like. Bad. I don't even. Do you even get enjoyment watching like a Kansas City game? I just don't. I feel like I'm just rolling my eyes the entire time. It's like, oh, here, okay. We can kind of get into. Did you see the drive that happened in that game, where it was the fumble by Mahomes, and then all of a sudden it turned into it was a touchdown. Yeah. The Texans got a touch, and not only did they negate the touchdown, they called it an incomplete pass, and then they called it roughing the passer, which, wow, just diabolical. Yeah. I couldn't even believe it.
You know what's so fucking... I said this earlier in the thing, so I have this season-long ticket. It has now literally come down to Patrick Mahomes and 30 touchdowns. And it's going to lose because this guy can't throw 30 touchdowns. Yeah. But he's the MVP. He's the MVP, by the way.
Oh, like, totally.
What are we doing? Like, everything goes this guy's, like, not goes this guy, but we've been on this pass attempts, Patrick Mahomes, fucking luck. Like, this guy is fucking garbage, he just forces it. 41 this game, 28 completions. Like, it's so funny because you can, like, this guy will never win a narrative. Like, this is the funny part. There's never a narrative in this modern day until he retires and he gets the Tom Brady effect where it's like, oh, yeah, that guy was kind of good. Yeah. It will never be that until he gets to that point. So I do find this fucking funny. Unless you're like, you're a fan of this right now and you're a Kansas City fan. Who's a Kansas City fan outside of Kansas City? That's always the funniest thing.
Yeah, I don't know how you're a fan of watching this team just get away with nonsense like this. Like it's getting comedic at this point. Like you sit there and you watch that, you're like, wow. Something
Yeah.
that was like clearly a fumble, not an incomplete pass, and a grazing of the shoulder pad is called roughing the passer. In the most pivotal of moments, you can count on the officials to throw a flag for the Chiefs, is what drives me insane. And it's so hard to watch a football game where it's just like, my God, just let them compete. But not only was it that, later on in that drive, it was a third down. And then it was a sack. And they throw the flag on holding. And I was like, I just immediately checked the odds for Kansas City to win the Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, I think we're going to have to lock that in because that's just clearly what the NFL wants to happen at this point, man. I've watched the most unexciting, most mid, what are they now? One loss team at this point in the entirety of this game. And it takes my breath away every fucking week.
You know what's funny? So I'm just looking at the stats of this game too, and penalties and yards actually favor the Texans. So
yeah, I bet they do.
It's just, but it's comical the timing on it, right? It's always like it's not ever that. It's always it's the timing. It's every single time it's the timing.
Yes, it's very convenient that everything
the one
happens
score
for
game like. This isn't open. This is just past the one, but they said another tight game. It's a little bit past that.
Yeah.
But like this is, I don't know. It's every single. It was funny on one of our posts. I kind of put it. It was like a Kansas City based post. It was actually like, hey, we're on your side too. Sometimes, it's just we're feeding all the fan bases. We're trying to get everyone involved. Build a nice community here of all fan bases, so we can build that back and forth. And so we do that one for Kansas City, and someone goes, I think it was like, oh, the stats disprove this, and I was like, why don't you share them with the team?
Yeah, we'd love to hear that.
Everybody, we'd love to
line
see
them up
this.
for us.
Yeah, you got it ready for me. Cook it. Let's see. Let's put it in the pot. And no, they did not do that. So
of course, they didn't.
Listen, you're gonna be that person. You better come equipped because a lot of the stats suggest that there's a lot of things that go their way. And it's easy to be blind to it. It is. When you're winning, it's easy to be blind. It's like, no, we got this.
Yeah, but we're not even blind to it anymore, dude. Like, it's right there in plain sight.
We'll never be. Like, that's the difference, right? Like,
you're talking about the Chiefs fans.
Yeah, every Patriots fan was always like, no, that ball was full. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's never going to be that way.
I don't know what it is. I just, even when I watched the Patriots, I felt like it wasn't even this bad. Right now, it seems like
it was this bad. It was this bad. It was.
I guess it's been so far removed. Like I'm just watching it unravel with the Chiefs now, and it's like, holy fuck! Like this is really bad now. Like it's really bad.
It's just because, in my opinion, no matter what you do, you'd have to throw none in order for you to say that the Chiefs won without that, right? Like. It's
no,
gotten to
I don't
that
think
point.
That's it. Like I'm cool with everything, but like
if all of a sudden a flag goes up, the first thought in your head is fuck this team. Like it's not even like
I don't think it's that because if a flag goes up at any point in the game, like you go second down holding call, like cool. I'm talking in the most pivotal of moments in a game.
It doesn't matter.
Game changing shit. Like think about this from a perspective of could you imagine if that was a fumble return for a touchdown? How different that game looks. The momentum. That is what drives me insane. I don't care about if there's flags. Like flags happen. Yeah. It is in the most crucial times does it bounce their way. Yeah, and it's fucking bullshit to see. Yeah. We're all sick of it. But now I got to cheer for Pittsburgh against the Chiefs, which is just a great matchup for me.
How does that feel?
Yeah. Oh, man. I don't even know how to feel anymore at this point. I just want to see Kansas City lose. Give us some life. But some life. I want to see them play all the way down the stretch here. Like, I want it to be as exciting as possible. Yeah. Honestly, fucking go Steelers this week. Like, that'll be the last time you'll ever hear me say that. But I need it. Definitely need it. But, I mean, that was... that was one of the Saturday games. Aside from that, Texans, like... What are the Texans? They remind me a lot of who we just talked about, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, losing Tank Dell, now you got this concern going on. I don't see these guys going very far in the playoffs. But they've had to deal with a lot of injuries. You got to see how that defense plays and holds them in, but kind of is what it is for them. Now, if we go over to that other side of the late game, the Ravens and Steelers, Ravens got a big dub against the Steelers. Steelers looked very flat. Russ with some turnovers. Ravens looked great, and Lamar finally gets a big win against the Steelers. I know he always struggled against the Steelers, but Ravens look good. Lamar looked great. Derrick Henry looked great. Defense played well. Overall, just a great game from the Ravens here. And I think there's some concern on the Steelers end, right? And this is what we've all been talking about.
Couple in a row.
But I will give them this. Like, it's tough to play without your best offensive player too. Like, and it's not like they have multiple weapons either. Like, this is their guy. This is their guy that draws the coverage, that separates things. And I do think the reason that guys like Freiermuth and things like that weren't getting as much play is because of the fact that George Pickens wasn't on the field, and that makes it tremendously difficult for the entirety of that offense to operate. And you're seeing it. But the news is the Steelers are going to get George Pickens back this week, so I expect them to play a lot better against Kansas City, especially with this game. You know, like, they want to win the division, so this is going to be a big game for them.
Yeah, Kansas City's defense is super fucking tough, and these guys are going to be coming out to protect that and win that and clinch that, right? So
yeah, in Pittsburgh, this is going to be a defensive battle, man. Yeah, this is going to be a defensive battle. I think I was looking at the early line was 44 points, and I'm like, I might be leaning under in this scenario because I just think this is going to be a tough fought out game. So, but based on this, like I said, Ravens definitely one of the top teams in the league here. Who do you think is going to close out this division? Steelers or Ravens here at the end?
Bengals, man.
Funny guy. Listen, it's week 16, all right? Jokes are over.
Yeah,
jokes are over.
Bengals are coming on. It's pixie tails and fairy dust, I think is what we called it. They're coming.
I mean, you need a lot of shit for them to go right, but we can talk about them later on. But when it comes down, like, let's look at the schedule here. So I think the Steelers Ravens got Chiefs, Ravens got Texans.
Yeah,
I think and then week 18, Steelers got Bengals at home. Ravens got Browns.
I think the Ravens will take this. I just don't exactly to your point. The matchups are there. Houston's struggling. They're going to be playing, trying to play their game. It hasn't been, it's been successful, but not overly successful.
Right.
They're going to be challenged with working in and around the situation with Tank Dell. I put more in the Ravens' hands between now and Cleveland than I would against, I think the Steelers are going to lose to the Bengals in last week. I think the Bengals are just found it a little bit here. It's kind of just playing loose. And if there's any other injury situations, I think this falls to the Ravens' hands.
So you're saying potentially the Steelers could lose out here at the end? Lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Bengals. You think that's a scenario that could happen? I look at it and I think it's if they both win out, the Steelers actually win the division based on current seeding and such. So the problem is, the Steelers have the tougher path. If the Steelers beat the Chiefs this week, that will be big, right? This is a huge week. Yeah. But if they lose, the Ravens obviously have the softer setup.
I think the hardest remaining, or one of the hardest remaining, between the Chiefs, the strength of schedule, and the Ravens are considered one of the easiest. So,
I do think the Texans are going to give them a little bit more than you would think this week. It is in Houston. Houston just came off a loss. Obviously they might have clinched their division, but seeding is still a thing too. And just pride and winning against better teams, right? You want to beat these teams rolling into the playoffs. You don't want to just roll over and just happen to be in the playoffs, right? You want to string these games together. So I do think this is going to be a tougher fought matchup than people may think going into this upcoming week. But aside from standouts, there wasn't very many big showings that really stood out. Lamar is playing great. And I think he's putting up numbers that are better than his MVP season last year. And now, we can get into this discussion of like, is it really a lock on Josh Allen for this MVP now? Because of the way that Lamar is playing.
Lamar is
these two games are going to be
right?
huge.
Like the Saquon rush yards record is the curiosity, right? Like
it is.
If that comes into play, that also is a factor. But again, it's a QB award. It's just
it's going to go to a quarterback.
It's
just going to.
Jalen Hurts getting hurt is interesting, and that might push the run game to be played a little different in Philly. We'll see. Because
so Jalen Hurts is actually in concussion protocol right now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see now,
because that might play a factor into how heavily relied on is Saquon, and if that is the case, then Saquon's conversation gets a little bit higher as well. And
I seem to think opposite though. If you watch that game on the weekend, Saquon was not nearly as effective when Jalen Hurts was out of the game.
A little hurt too. Yeah. Well, that's what I
mean.
But
he had 100 yards in the first quarter.
But if he doesn't elevate in this moment, it's either if he does, then it's like, okay, there's a conversation. But if he doesn't, then it's all of a sudden you're out of this contest, like completely. Right.
Oh yeah.
And so then,
especially if Jamar Chase wins the Triple Crown too.
Yeah.
Like if Saquon folds a little bit and Jamar goes on this pace and he wins the Triple Crown and he finishes the season solid, I think he has to be Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, he has to.
To be. I don't care what the team record is.
I was looking through the leaders today ahead of this, and I'm going, and it's every fucking leader on the main categories is a Bengal, and yet you are where you are. I think this is the funniest thing.
It's been a running joke all year.
It is real tough. That's a real tough scene, especially from receiving and passing. But yeah, God, that's amazing. But the other side of this is just exactly what Josh Allen has been, right? And this is the difference, right? One team is leading 2 wins, the other team is not. Baltimore, again, same discussion. Lamar is better, but this was the same argument that everyone had for Lamar last year that it was for Josh Allen this year. It's the exact same argument. So like we talked about it in the early going of our this year was like, what was Lamar's stats comparatively to his peers and who should have won the MVP last year based on that? And we said, Lamar probably wasn't the correct choice. Now flip vice versa to this situation in this year, and we're having the exact same conversation, and you can't say that Josh Allen is in that same situation. So it's like, well, if not for being consistent, NFL, make your fucking call here. And
it seems to be a team success award. Like the Ravens were the best team in the league last year. And Lamar got the MVP, and his numbers are way better this year. But then you look at like the Bills this year and like what Josh Allen's been able to do, and sure. But then like on the flip side, Saquon, like McCaffrey had a historical year last year, and I thought he should have won MVP if anything last year. And it's just a quarterback award. You might as well just throw that label on it. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, man. Two more weeks left to see how the MVP race goes. Mm-hmm. And then for me, on my perspective, it's if Cincinnati somehow wills their way into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I do think Joe Burrow should be in that conversation. Now,
no, if somehow he plays into this, I don't see how you can't have that conversation. Because it's like now it's, then you can look at it like an offense plays offense and defense plays defense. And albeit what you will, in the last 5 games of the season, this guy won outright and fucking took him to the show. And if especially like it should end there in the regular season. Like if he does happen to get in and then goes on a run to the Super Bowl, that would be fucking incredible. Probably one of the greatest comeback fucking parts of the season all time.
Be historical.
Like he's going to throw, like in order to do that, like what's he at? He's like 4,300 yards right now, 42 something.
So I'm not sure.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets up to that, almost that 5,000 in the last 2 games here, because he just has that ability to. And the matchups here outside of the Steelers.
First player in NFL history to throw 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in 7 straight games. First player in NFL history. So, I mean, like, hey, You got these guys in the fucking comments down below, all you Josh Allen Glazers out there, everybody talking shit. Like, honestly, man, go for the MVP award for all I care. My guy is doing shit consistently. He's just breaking records every week, doing his thing. He's got playoff wins. He's won big games before, and there's plenty of this guy's career. And I'm just going to be the one that's sitting there waiting to say, I told you so, years down the line when it's all said and done. Because you know what? We had a shit season. It happens. Yeah. But you get back to the drawing board, and I expect them to be fucking way better next year. And it is what it is.
They should be better. They should start to figure out where their holes are. You have to. You clearly.
Shit happens, man.
We'll see how this team figures out all their weapons and all their.
It's a lot of moving pieces. Yeah, a lot of moving pieces with the football team.
They play this smart.
Yeah, and we'll see. But hats off to these guys. Like, this is going to be an interesting run down the line here. It'll be cool to see. That's all I want to see is I want to see a little bit of parity. I want to see some competitive football down this stretch, and this is going to be exciting to see. But kind of touching on getting into this Philadelphia-Washington game here, which was a hell of a game. Appreciate you, Jayden Daniels, for hooking me up in some of my fantasy playoff matchups here, putting up a 40 burger for me. That was a hell of a comeback from them, and obviously Jalen Hurts went down with the concussion. He was out.
That was the change right there.
Kenny Pickett came in. I mean, was the passing game a little bit better with Kenny Pickett in the lineup, though? It seemed to look a little bit better to me. Well, Devontae also dropped that ball on third down.
Exactly.
If he didn't drop that ball, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It would be a little bit different of a game. But I think you're
I appreciate it because I had AJ Brown there. I needed that. Yeah. And I don't think he had a stat line before Kenny Pickett came into the game.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think this is one of those games that you just you clearly felt the shift, and so I think it's so funny now talking about the passing game, and though also like what Jalen Hurts means to this team as well. Like anytime a starting quarterback goes down, you should feel like a panic. You should feel like, oh fuck, because regardless of what you thought you might not have had in that quarterback, you need that fucking quarterback to be playing for your team. Because then I guarantee you every fucking Philly fan swallowed their fucking pride in that moment and be like, oh fuck, like we need this guy for the playoffs. We do need this. Like, we can talk so much shit about the passing and all that stuff going on. We need this guy for this fucking playoff run if we're going to have one. So yeah, you can say all what you want about Jalen Hurts and his passing game. You want Jalen Hurts playing quarterback as you head into the fucking playoffs here. Yeah. So get a little less testy about, all the drama that's happening with this team, because needs it.
That was a big game too, because they're vying for that 1 seed, and losing that game, I don't know if they're going to come out on top. It looks like it's going to be a Minnesota-Detroit battle for that 1 spot. And don't they play each other at the end of the year here? I think they go head-to-head end of the year for that. That's going to be fucking must-see TV.
It is, honestly. They've lined up the schedule. As funny as we were talking about the early goings in some of these games in the middle, and that's just how it works. These guys actually do know what the fuck they're doing to provide an entertaining finish.
Yeah.
And I think it's like we got a lot of matchups here right at the end that are coming down to the wire. Minnesota, right? Like that's another game that's going to be fucking great. And like it's all swinging towards these final divisional matchups that are going to decide playoffs and where these teams lie. So I don't know. It's actually pretty entertaining. I know it's an entertainment product, as we like to say, but it's coming down to the wire here, and I love it.
Yeah, this is what we want, man. We love the ending here. We want to see it. But Saquon is 267 yards away from Eric Dickerson's record. 2 games left on the slate, and Jalen Hurts being out could impact the way that this kind of happens, because teams are going to be playing them different if they got Kenny Pickett, man. I'm not afraid to throw a few more defenders kind of in that box. Don't got to worry about the read option as much. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But
Kenny can run too. You just got to fake it.
Yeah,
he's got
Buddy's got rib injuries now, so I don't think they're doing any read option with Kenny Pickett anytime soon. But
that's it. I'm taking rushing line on Kenny.
Yeah, here we go. Here's the over on Kenny Pickett. All right, here we go.
But fucking see it.
Fuck, we'll see how Saquon's a little banged up too. Be interesting to see how that plays out. But that game was wicked. Hats off to Commanders fans. Big game. Very, very cool to see. Like, I've been cheering for the Commanders. Start of the season, it feels like just great story, a little change up. We love to see that. But then kind of bouncing off that, getting into some of these other games here, we got Michael Penix coming in against the Giants. I was a little iffy on this. I was like, why? 9-point favorite. They got a rookie quarterback going in, but I guess Kirk Cousins is just that bad. And then you got the headline coming out before this week's games. They even started. They were talking about how much is going to cost the Falcons because they're going to release Kirk Cousins.
$60 million.
That's pretty wild. But I mean, that's the shot you take. But hey, you can't fault them. We've had this conversation multiple times. No. You can't fault them for doing what they did.
No, it's just more wild, the contract's term and length, right? Like the fact that it was 4 years at that and $90 million guaranteed. I think that's what comes down to the question mark, is like, it goes for, if you were then planning to draft this quarterback that that you were going to bench for the year or whatever the case, why wouldn't you just try and sign? Maybe Kirk Cousins didn't, like, that's the other tail of it, is like, maybe Kirk Cousins wasn't signing for anything less than 4 years.
Yeah, probably not.
At the same breath of this, like, you just cost your team $60 million in dead cap. Like, this is where it's like,
do we really sit here and go, did we think Kirk Cousins was going to be this dog shit?
So what's funny is,
probably
like,
not.
If you feel like you were going to pay Michael Penix down the road here, are you just paying Michael Penix Kirk Cousins money for the next couple of years while his money value is lesser on his rookie contract? And then, hey, you pull up and say, hey, we're just going to swing that same money over to you, and here we go, right? Like,
that's it.
Could be the way that they've structured this in their minds. I don't know.
Well, I'm assuming they thought Kirk Cousins was going to be Kirk Cousins, and maybe it was a little slow out of the gate, but he's just been on a steady decline. But after, like, that was kind of the final straw in that Raiders game, to come out and say, like, yeah, we're fucking, like, we're cutting you, like, that's pretty aggressive. To not even kind of sit like that, like, headline coming out mid-season after that game is like, we're releasing you. Like, holy fuck, after signing that big of a contract, like, that's wild.
In March.
like just that's the plan. We've already made that decision.
That's where we're going.
That's where I was, like, so caught off guard. But man,
I'm sure Kirk was like, the fuck? Like,
I wonder what's going on.
What do you say? He's like,
right now.
I can still play quarterback. Like, I'm still a quarter. Like, I'm still.
Well, how the fuck did he? How has he gone from, like, where he was earlier in the season to where he's at now? And we watched him in that Raiders game, man. That dude was a statue in the pocket. He did not look comfortable. He couldn't set himself. It just looked really bad, and I don't know why it's gotten to that
and fatigue. Point. Like, it's age is probably playing a factor. There's some injury history here at play. Fatigue is definitely a part of it. Like, I think he just kind of had a hot start. Fucking felt the adrenaline was coming out there. You like that? Like, this guy was just fucking doing his thing, and then it kind of fell off as soon as things started going a little sideways. So I don't know. I think it's honestly the right call. We talked about quarterbacks. We talked about young quarterbacks getting that time to kind of prepare and adapt to the end. And Penix didn't look out of fucking sorts at all.
No,
like, he fit the bill. He was putting some fucking balls in tough spots and like executing like really fucking solid. Guy's got a cannon too, and it's so weird seeing a fucking lefty. It is weird. Like, I know it's just like there's so
two
few
is lefty too. It's weird.
Two is a lefty, and it's just so few of them to see that, and then you kind of get like fucked up because you're like, oh, he's looking left. Oh no, never mind. He's passing right, but it just crossed your body. It's just so different looking. I don't know what it is from a right-handed throwing to the left side of the field to like lefty throwing right. Like, it just looks so fucking weird.
Yeah,
like, it's just how we view it from the TV. Like, it's like it's like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like,
but it's like great showing from him. He did what he needed to do. I wouldn't say this was like the Penix show or anything. Like, the defense had 2 touchdowns, Bijan 2 touchdowns. Like, that's where you want to get your production
defense
from, right?
Sewered me in one of my fucking leagues. Oh my god,
2 touchdowns
26
on defense
points
will do that
from
too.
the fucking Falcons. I was like, this is bullshit. I don't even know what to do here.
Yeah, don't want to be the Giants. And speaking of the Giants, sliding into that number 1 overall pick slot
Mm-hmm.
after the Raiders
Mm-hmm.
won this past week. When I'm looking at the Giants, and I want to get your thoughts on that, what is the plan here with this team moving forward? Because it's been embarrassing the way they've handled a lot of these things, from the Daniel Jones contract to the way the team has operated ever since that, and how this team has just gone absolutely downhill. Do you want to, or would you clean house, and would you bring in an entire new front office? You get the GM, the coach, all these guys, and start fresh. When you go in, they draft their guy, because you're obviously going to take a quarterback here if you're the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you ride through with Daboll and Joe Schoen? Like, are you sticking with these guys? I'll get your thoughts and I'll touch on them.
Yeah, I think if anything is right this season about the Giants, it's the guy flying the fucking plane.
Yeah.
I think he's sending as good a message as any other Giant fan out there. I think you're on it right now in that you probably are best to clean house and start fresh. Given the situations of what's been the decisions and just the weird decisions, like the Saquon move was fucking strange. The Daniel Jones situation was fucking weird. There's so many of these just calls that, like, Malik Neighbors was a great draft pick. Like, I think that was probably like striking gold there, right? But outside of that, it doesn't read to me that they have a foundation or a plan in place that's going to correct this anytime soon. And we said, like, I think I said this a couple pods ago, is like, Malik Neighbors is going to get more frustrated before he gets happy. And now you're going to sewer that opportunity. So you either go with a complete direction where now he feels like he has a bigger part in this plan and you're working him into this, just to make sure that he's involved in some of these decisions as things go out, or else you're just going to lose this guy eventually to trade. Like we've seen what's happened with Garrett Wilson on the other side in New York, and like what a shit show New York football is right now. But literally, like Garrett Wilson's situation where it's just like, yo, I want, I'm not a part of this right now, so I'm good. Like I'll just vacate to where I can be a bit more of the center of attention in this situation. I don't see that far off from happening with Malik Neighbors if this doesn't correct itself and sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, when you got shitty culture like that, nobody really wants to stick around. So to me, when I look at this, I'm like, okay, I don't see how you can possibly run this back with the same group of guys and to expect the players that are there to stick around and want to be part of this, right? Like, they've gone through this shit, and it's like, where's the belief going to come from? As a player, I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck that shit. Like, you already got Neighbors. He's gone through it. He's seen it, and he's a stud. He's going to be a great guy, and you got to build around him for the future. But I think now is the perfect time to be like, okay, well, we're not fucking running it back with you guys. We're going to bring in a new GM. We're going to bring in a new head coach. We're going to actually put together a plan, like you just said, and actually go out and attack this draft and free agency and step by step build this thing from the ground up again. Because there's just no sense to me in you running it back, man. Like, it is what it is. It's gotten to this point.
And that's the unfortunate thing. This is my thing on it. You can't make any more mistakes with this turn of events, right? Like you can't keep affording to make mistakes. Like the draft was a hit, but every other decision pre and post that has been suspect. So you have to make these fucking these next plays be the right call. And right now, I'm sure as every Giants fan is looking at this team being like, I think we got a direction, maybe. Like we gotta pick out this guy. We gotta go get Cam Ward, or we gotta go get fucking one of these guys, and like bring in this culture. And maybe it's Coach Prime. Maybe that's the fucking. Could you imagine that shit? And then playing that out, that would be a story and a half.
That's what it fucking looks like, man. But like, it could be one of those things, but you have to establish some sort of identity. This team has not. But
that's the identity, right? Like, just go right for it, flip it, flip it,
and that's fine. I'm all for a team putting together that plan if they have some sort of identity they're aiming for. These guys have just been. They let the most talented player walk out their doors, and they just. I don't know what the fuck their plan was. But that's an embarrassment, man. I think you got to clean house. You got to start over for the Giants. So.
Yep.
I don't see them winning another game the rest of the way. They're going to end up with that number 1 overall pick now, I think, and that's going to be the play, depending on what happens in the offseason here. We'll see how that goes. But we can kind of bounce over. We can talk about another embarrassing team in this league. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. Turns out it was, you tell me it was double XP weekend or something like that? Call of Duty?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's either double XP weekend this past weekend or weekend before, but I think everything related to Kyler Murray and his fucking opportunities for success fall in line with Call of Duty and Black Ops. And yeah, this is just another fucking like shitty showing. We both laughed because we had the cards on our card, literally pun intended, and that was the game difference on
that was
on
the
a
straw
big
that
payout,
broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
the Arizona Cardinals, and we knew it in hindsight. You know it. They're a just brutal team, up and down, roller coaster of a team. And I think, man, at this point, you've watched Kyler Murray so many times. Like, this is who he is. I think, man. Like, now that you have guys, you got James Conner, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride is a stud. You got guys. The offense is fine, right? Like, but it's just mistakes. And some of the dumb shit that he does, though. Man. Yeah, of course. The defense,
like, their defense is always like they get run on.
You can't give up 36 game. To the Carolina Panthers.
Chuba had fucking 152 yards. Like, they get run on every fucking game.
They do,
and they can't defend it. And it's like it's a clear like, what, they have 3 touchdowns all rushing.
Yeah,
and they had 5 touchdowns against this game. It's crazy enough.
Yeah, you can't be giving that up. And that was a game where Arizona needed to win. That was an elimination game for them.
Yeah.
And they willed themselves back in at the end. Me and you were like, fuck, they're still in it. Yeah. And they blew it. And it's like, man, it just seems like this is what Kyler Murray is. He's reached his ceiling. This is who the Arizona Cardinals are. That's frustrating to see if you had them on your parlay card, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you can see Trey McBride, he was frustrated in the tunnel at the end there, just going like, man, we fucking lost like to this shit ass team. Mm-hmm. And the Panthers are ass, but fuck, they played better than you guys. So
Panthers in the last 4 weeks have not been as ass as some would say for the record, right? Like, they have been actually battling every fucking game.
They've been fighting
that one shit show showing in last week. But
I think that's more of a pride thing, though. Like, at the end of the year, you're not really like, you got nothing. You're playing more so for pride. You're playing for your job. So you get different kind of competitive juices going, but they pulled it out, man. Cardinals flubbed another one. They're out of the playoffs now.
Yeah.
Looks like James Conner could potentially not be playing with the knee injury now. So that sucks. Fantasy owners, myself included on that one. Finals week going to be a little bit light at the RB position, that's for sure. But that's kind of a wrap on those two teams on the season. Now we can get into some Lions-Bears action. I think me and you thought maybe the Bears had more of a chance in this game with the Lions being so fucking banged up on the defensive side of the ball.
Turns out, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter when you're playing the Bears, I guess. But as a Bears fan, and I've listened to a few of those. I always talk about the SiriusXM, the NFL Network channel. I get some of the Bears fans that call into that channel, and they are in shambles. They're in shambles. And I mean, can you say rightfully so to the Bears fans out there? Like, are you allowed to be that upset with a rookie quarterback? This team is 4-11, and they're on a massive slide, and it's just gone downhill. Like, how are we feeling here? What do we think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so Caleb Williams has shown different spots throughout this season as advertised. Like, he has had some games, like even this game wasn't a terrible showing by him by any means. Like, and exactly what we're saying with like Keenan Allen coming in. Like, I think if Keenan Allen was healthier throughout the year here, because he didn't get playing until like really week 7, week 8.
Yeah.
And he's been banged up a bit and then come back in this and starts to kind of be that wide receiver one. Like, I think that's been the problem, is none of these guys, like none of the connections between DJ Moore and fucking Rome, like have really panned out. So he's been kind of just making it work here. I think given another year, maybe some more, situational, wide receiver action, figure out that part of it. And Caleb has a big career ahead of him, because there has been it's been absolute fucking sky high and then fucking absolute valley. This game is an example. And then a couple weeks back, he threw for 340 and 2, right? He's got that in him. So it's not to say that it's on him completely, but this Bears team has just, I don't know. I feel like they haven't really gelled at all season long. I don't necessarily put this on the quarterback. I just haven't seen anything that says hey, this is a really well grouped together team. Even fucking in Philly's dysfunction, they're still operating, right? Yeah. Not to say that these two offenses are by any means the same, but they're still figuring it out. This team is not figuring anything out. It's just complete peaks and valleys.
It is, and I think we talked about the Giants not having an identity. I think that's kind of the same with the Bears here.
The Bears, yep, agreed.
And when you go into the draft for the Bears, it's not they have talent there. There's guys that can clearly score, but you're going to need a little bit of help on the offensive line, and you're going to need to get a new head coach. That's where you're going to start. But to say what are your expectations? Expectations, that's where you got to start. It's what are the expectations of the team? And I get it. You get a high pick, a high draft pick. That's a quarterback. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. You have high expectations. I get that. And it doesn't help when you have such high standards set by some of the guys coming into this league, like CJ Stroud did last year. That's kind of the expectations you have as Bears fans. So understandably so, I get the frustration, but man, so it doesn't always work out like that. And there's a lot of work that still needs to be done here, but you can't just to chalk this up and this is what it is. Give these guys time to grow and develop, like we talked about before. And I'm sure they get a good coach in there and start to really find the identity of this team. They're going to be a lot better.
Do you imagine Michael Penix has a better fucking career than Caleb Williams?
Well, I mean, fuck, dude. Shit happens, man. You get better surroundings.
You do. I think so. When we've done this study, right? I looked into this further. It's far more situational based than it is talent. It's almost situation over talent in a lot of different spots. Alex Smith was able to do what he was doing. Alex Smith is Alex Smith. Alex Smith reminds me a lot of the Brock Purdy kind of scenario. Can have those kind of games, but it's just kind of that system type guy. And then you go in and then you have a Patrick Mahomes and wait, right? And then that guy comes into a good system, good situation, and thrives, right? And Caleb Williams did not come into a good situation here. And I think that's the difference maker on, a career getting started in the right direction or kind of face planting and having to pick yourself up. So by no means do I think the Bears are going to completely face plant, but they definitely didn't get off to the start that they definitely wanted. So
in hindsight, I think they should have dished their coach last year and started fresh, but you win some, you lose some, man. It is what it is. I'm sure in the offseason they're going to correct some of those things and try and fix this roster and get Caleb, another offseason under his belt. And I think the Bears will come out a lot stronger next year. But then funny enough, we talked about this game, the Colts, the Titans, ended up being quite an eventful game. Quick hitter, Mr. Jonathan Taylor, he held on to the ball. If you saw that first touchdown, he ran all the way into the tunnel. He was holding on to that
Forrest
ball.
Gump that shit. Ran all the way
He wasn't letting it go. You had his teammates trying to jaw it out. He was hanging on to it. And, of course, he goes off after that game that he had before. 3 touchdowns, massive day for Jonathan Taylor. Colts ended up squeezing it out, it felt like, because they were up huge, and then Tennessee was coming back. Quite a wild finish to that game, but me and you both had the conversation about Jonathan Taylor going off just because he was pissed about the way last week ended. And lo and behold, if you had him on your parlay card, you definitely cashed for sure. So aside from that, not a lot to talk about there, except for the fact that, Titans, one of those teams that are vying for, top picks in the draft, and the Colts are still in this. They're technically still in the hunt here with the Bengals, the Dolphins, Denver, all these guys in this little cluster. they have to lose one game in their last two, them in Miami, to give the Bengals a shot here. So we'll see. I think they got a light schedule, so I don't know how that's going to play out. But the Colts, who knows? Who knows how it plays out? But I think we're going to talk now about the Rams and the Jets a little bit here. You're talking about Garrett Wilson and the frustrations that he had. It just seems like it's the Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, let's make some memories type of vibe right now. They're just kind of doing their thing, padding the stats a little bit. And
this is so funny, man. Like, to me, this is just such a funny, like, this is so selfish in so many ways. Like,
what else are they going to do, though?
Yeah, I know. But are you going to play next year? And, like, what's the goal for next year? Like, what's the game plan here? So you're just going to kind of take this and be like, hey, yeah, we got this situation. We got Aaron Rodgers and Diontae running into their fucking retirement home. Yeah. And this young kid, well, fuck this guy. Like, we don't need him. We just got us. Look at us. We're gonna do this, and then come out with the same record next year because that's all you have. Like, this is so fucking funny to me. Like, they've lost their defensive identity completely. They've and you're talking about coach bringing an identity. Yeah, that's gone. So now you have this situation where it's like, yo, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae are like, yeah, we're just going to Pat McAfee show on the fucking Tuesday. And then we're going to go out and play some football and we're going to get some scores and it's going to be great. And we're going to get some contract bonuses and maybe smoke some ayahuasca in the fucking tent. Like,
legit. That's all it feels like we're seeing. Garrett Wilson's just like, what the fuck is this?
Like, what am I a part of here? Like, what am I in this future here?
Yeah, like, and they threw up I was telling you, like, the 3-point line on the Rams, I'm like, to me it looks a little soft. I thought the Rams are a much better team than the Jets. Just with the way things were going. But I mean, score only ended up being 19-9. Rams are just a better overall team. Jets kind of are what they are, but dude, I was toying with this thought yesterday while watching the games. I'm like, man, well, like, realistically, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Davante Adams. Davante Adams is clearly not a bum, right? Like, he's still a good player. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall. Like, you have a team here. Like, can you run this back and just figure out what your identity is? Get an offseason together, get a coach in there that knows what he's doing. Like, does that make sense for the Jets, though? Or is it another, like, let's fucking blow it up? Because when I look at that point, I don't realistically, what are you going to do? You're going to go get Sam Darnold again? I don't think you're doing that. No. And then on the other side of things, it's just like, what, like, we have guys here. Like, there isn't guys available. There's not going to be a quarterback in the draft you're going to get that's going to replace Aaron Rodgers. To me, it's the logical thing to do here is to run it back with these guys and see if you can get this thing to work. Because other than that, it's get rid of everybody and let's start to accumulate draft picks and start all over again, which,
that's
my God, it sucks to be a Jets fan. I couldn't imagine what that is like.
Like, you could be just going back into the well here, like, right after you thought you had hope. Like, that's the crazy part to this. Like, holy shit. Like, I just can't. This is where I just say it's like, that's why I say selfish. Like, there's no sense in running this back if you know that it's going to be like another year of taxing Aaron Rodgers. And like, it's not like he's lost so much a step on the arm, but you can tell the rest of the other part of the game is kind of starting to fade. Especially just like, he's just I don't know. He's just not the same, I want to say. And
he doesn't have the escapability. Like, he made so many magical plays in his career. He doesn't have that same ability.
He's still got that. Like, he's still got that touch. Like, I think that's the biggest thing with Rodgers. He's still got that touch, but and his arm and his zip and everything, like, he can still do that. But it's so funny. I look at kind of like Tom Brady as he was retiring and then Aaron Rodgers going into this, and it is a stark contrast between these two guys. And like, I'd go out and get Brady at this point and fucking set and be like, yo, come out of that fucking booth. Right?
Manning fell off so hard there too. Like, you can
they all have this dwindling, like, cliff, right? But like, I don't feel like Brady had that cliff. I don't feel like Brady fell off at all. Like, he just retired.
Well, I mean, he did fall off because they had that, like, that shitty, they finished like 9-8 that year, and then they got smoked by the Eagles in the playoffs.
What was his last season though? It was absurd.
That was his last season. No.
But he couldn't have won
that
an
absurd
MVP
one
in that
was the
season?
year before. No, that was the year before that.
Nah, I'm pretty sure still.
No, trust me. That last season, he was not that same guy. That's why they walked away. But when you look at Rodgers, it's just like, man, do we really want to deal with this personality shit with Rodgers? Like, it's a lot you got to bring into the locker room.
You got to, yeah.
Or do you sit there and you go, you know what? Let's formulate a new culture. Let's bring in a new head coach. We're gonna have to fucking run this back again, and it is what it is. Like, it just sucks because, man, you feel like you got a guy, and then all this happens, and it's unfortunate, man. I watched the first part of that Aaron Rodgers documentary on Netflix. It's really cool. It's just sad to see kind of where it's gone with his career right now. Like,
it is.
He was such an amazing player.
Tom Brady in his final fucking year as a quarterback threw for 4,694 yards.
Oh yeah, no. He had stats.
25 touchdowns. Like, this guy's fucking ridiculous. If you don't just call this guy the GOAT, I don't know what we're doing. But holy shit.
Unmatched.
It was you're right though. The year before that, sorry, my mistake. That was when he went for 5,300.
He had a hell of a year that season. It was wild.
Yeah,
but you're not getting that from Aaron Rodgers. It's just not happening, man.
No,
and that could be it, man. It'd be interesting to see if that's it. But for him to go somewhere else and play like for another team, could you imagine that?
I feel like no one's going to want that headache. Yeah, I just don't. I feel like no one's going to want that.
Nobody wants.
He might want it. I don't know if any other team wants it. It'll be like the Bill Belichick shit, where it's like he just kind of gets the go do podcasts, go do shit. Yeah. Just stop. Exactly. We don't want it.
Yeah. Could be it. That's a wrap on that. So some other games we got: Vikings, Seahawks, Sam Darnold. The Vikings are 13-2. Every fucking week it just blows my mind. If Kevin O'Connell doesn't win Coach of the Year, I don't see how anybody else deserves Coach of the Year for what this guy is doing, man. Like, he took Sam Darnold and turned this team into a 13-2 team. These guys are going for the number 1 seed. Man. That's crazy to me. And every week they're not only winning games, but they're also being tested in these games too. And like yesterday's game against the Seahawks, man. Seahawks went down, they scored, they went up. 3 minutes left. Vikings went down the field, they scored, got the go-ahead, and then the defense stopped. Like, this is a complete. Well,
you were saying, I think this was a couple pods ago. Like, you were saying, hey, I haven't seen them get super tested, and then this last 3 weeks, I'm like,
yeah, they're getting tested.
Well, there we go. Like, this is a really fucking good team. They've been a good team all year. Yeah. The defense is playing, exceptionally well. They just know how to shut it down when they need to.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a taper back from the beginning of the season when they were really kind of dominating, but they're still able to get those stops when they need them. And yeah, like you said, Sam Darnold has just been on an absolute fucking tear. Just QBR,
so efficient.
Too. Like, he's just really so good this year, man. Like, it's such a wild thing to say. I love it. I love an underdog story like that. 246, 3 touchdowns. Guy's not throwing any interceptions. He's just solid, man. He's just playing really well.
He's playing really well.
And Jefferson's starting to come around and say, hey, look at me again.
Starting to find him, but he's using everyone, man. Addison's playing great. Hawkinson's got his role. Like, Aaron Jones is running the ball. And they lost their fucking best offensive lineman, too, and they're still doing this shit.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Like, hats off to the Vikings this year.
You're kidding.
It has been very impressive. And like we talked about, that Detroit game, man, I'm not moving a damn inch off my couch. I want to see every bit of that football game. It's going to be awesome to see. And these Vikings, man, they could make some moves here in the playoffs if they continue playing the way they're playing. So very good game. And on the Seahawks side of things, big loss there. It looks like the Rams control their destiny with that division there. I don't know, based on the standings, if anybody else is really going to get in with these wild card spots. The Seahawks in a wild card spot currently. I haven't even checked the NFC standings, but it'll be interesting to see because Arizona just got eliminated. And then I don't know if Seattle has to just they have to fight the Rams for that spot, because I know the Rams have control over basically.
Seahawks are out of a wild card spot right now.
So they're out of the wild card spot right now.
And like, I don't think anyone gets in. I think it's done. Like,
so you got
what I see from the wild card.
One wild card's already taken because of that division. You got the Packers, the Commanders,
and then like 2 games
Tampa
back.
Bay there as well. So, and then they're 2 games back as well. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, and then you got
that
Atlanta,
is tough.
Like,
so
that doesn't matter. So
you
Seahawks
basically
have to lose. Rams have to lose. What they're going to do in order for this to happen.
Yeah, so the Rams would have to essentially lose for them. So Seattle has to win their division, which is, with the way the Rams are playing, I just don't see that happening. So that was a big game for Seattle, and they just lost that.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, but I mean, that's funny. I don't know if you noticed, 2 former Jets quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, going head-to-head there. And I think they showed Mark Sanchez was in the booth of that game, which... full circle moment there for the Jets quarterbacks. I thought that was hilarious. But Mr. Sam Darnold, he's going to be the diamond out there in free agency this offseason. I think he's worked himself into a big contract.
It'd be really funny if
wherever it is,
he doesn't continue this. Like, he just kind of goes out there, got all the hype in the beginning, then doesn't show up, and then finally gets paid, then doesn't show up. I think that would be so fucking funny. Like,
man, I don't know. Like,
peaks and drops and fucking
for him, I'm probably trying to sign with Minnesota again. Yeah. I just you can go chase your bag. I don't see him having.
Then what do you do with
JJ
McCarthy is the question, right?
Just let him sit for a bit.
Just sit him a couple of years.
Because what kind of contract are you signing Sam Darnold to?
Oh, he's got to go up 45, maybe 50.
I mean, like, years. How many years would you sign him to?
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe, I don't know. Do you do a Kirk? Or do you do less than a Kirk?
I think what I'm doing is I'm probably looking at, like, who else is up. Like, you got guys like Brock Purdy and stuff like that. Yeah. You're going to take a look at and you're going to see. And it all comes down to the money, right? Like, you're obviously not going to do something stupid like that when you got McCarthy there too. You got to evaluate what happens. But it all kind of come down to, all right, let's see how Sam Darnold performs in the playoffs too, and go from there. But you got all these teams that need a quarterback, and you look at the free agency right now. There's not a lot of quarterbacks. And you look to the draft, there's not a lot of quarterbacks right now. So Sam's going to get a little overpaid here, I think. And
I'm chuckling to myself over here because we're talking about quarterbacks. You had the Jordan Love pass attempts line here.
What's it at?
He's at 28 right now.
Is he? Of course.
Yeah.
But 7 minutes left. He's probably gonna throw one right now in my face, and it's gonna go over.
Yeah. 4th and 4. So I don't think they'll go for it.
That's some funny shit. 28. Could you imagine it lands? That's funny.
It could just stop right here, though.
Taking unders is stressful.
Unders is stressful.
But either way, you're probably not. Josh Jacobs hasn't even played at all. But yeah, we just got the Green Bay game on. This has been a
field goal made. If they pull him now, this is awesome for you. That would be all time great.
It doesn't even matter because the other things didn't hit. But
yeah.
Oh man, the rest of this game we got to talk about the man. Some of these other games are just brutal. I think the big one is we got to touch on, like, Josh Allen here and where he stands. I know we kind of touched on that. Bit of an up and down game, but I don't know if you saw his presser where he came out. He's like, we're in a tough spot. Where we're still trying to go for the 1 seed, but we're dependent on other teams. But us as a team, we don't want to show too much too. Did you see that presser?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So interesting take there from Josh Allen. It's like, I don't know if you ever really want to come out and say stuff like that. Where it's like, dude, like, you still got to win games here, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but, like, man, I think when you're cutting it close with the Patriots there, I would kind of let that shit go and just start getting that offense to go a little bit more. Stop worrying so much about other people seeing your shit. Because if you're good enough at your shit, you can execute.
The history here, right? Like the history on this has always been not good. Like he hasn't performed in the last 3-4 seasons here.
Yep.
Like aside from getting to the conference with the Chiefs, like he's lost every round, first round, like divisional exits. So you gotta lock into this shit, if any a time, especially the narrative that's coming out of the season. Like this is now your season to lose if you're the MVP favorite. So this is an interesting spot.
This is going to come down to these last 2 weeks. And I think the big sell point with Josh Allen was like, look what the Bills did. They overhauled their offense. Look, it's the same argument you presented to me. It's look what Josh Allen is doing with the limited weapons that he has. That is your selling point on Josh Allen for MVP. If he comes out and he's only mid Josh Allen these next 2 weeks, it might be Lamar Jackson getting his third MVP when all is said and done. So, it gets all the fucking Josh Allen glazers off my ass in the comments here. So we'll see. I'm excited to see. I just got a bag of popcorn. I'm chilling. I'm excited to see how this plays out at the end. But hey, man, he's gonna have to step it up. Last 2 games, they're easy games. Don't get me wrong. You're playing the Jets and you're playing the Bills, but these are division opponents. They're gonna play you tough. So we'll see what the Bills got. We'll see what Josh Allen's. What
they need to show up against the Jets. Which, if they do, which was my initial read back in early, November, if not late October, when we made that one meme about the fucking Jets right now, going 4-12, coming into the January New Year's with fucking Forrest Gump, come full circle on that Jonathan Taylor situation. Like, holy shit, 4-12 call back in October, and this is where they are. Like, oh my God. Yeah, that's
hectic.
Lovely setting. But the Bills should take that. They should solidify that. I will be shocked. But I would have said the same thing about the Patriots game, and that was a bit of a, what the fuck. So we'll see.
I agree. Aside from that, that's pretty much a wrap on the week. I know we didn't touch too much on some of these other games. Not a whole lot of implications based on kind of what was happening. You had Jaguars, Raiders. The biggest thing out of that game was fighting for seeding in obviously the draft here. Niners, Dolphins, like Niners are clearly out of it. And then you had the Bucs Cowboys game where the Bucs kind of fumbled, a big loss there. And that's going to affect their ability to get in the playoffs here. But I do think the Bucs will pull it out just based off an easier schedule in comparison to the Falcons. So nothing too much more to be said on that. We're excited for this week. We got the Christmas Day games, huge games here, the implications. 2 weeks left in the NFL season. Shit's getting exciting. Bengals Broncos is going to be a big one. I'm excited for that shit. But some meaningful
Vikings.
Football. Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
Lions, Vikings.
I just want that game to have meaning. I love the fact that this is just running to the end of the season.
Hell yeah.
Like, that division is fucking incredible.
It is.
And then Packers are right there too right now. It's awesome, man. Fuck.
That's it. NFL is going to be it's going to be fun down the stretch. So I'm excited to watch it. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to try and get into a preview of the games coming up this week. I know with Christmas and the holidays and all the run around, we got family stuff going on. I'm sure you guys do. We'll try and get the next show out, the preview for the week coming up this week. But like I said, appreciate you guys tuning in. It's the Chappie and Bengals podcast. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.
Easy.